All right. Right before my speech, I'm going to apologize really quick. At some point, I'm going to cough right into my microphone, so I'm just going to apologize right now for that. So, Rocketcat Games. My name's Kepa Auwae. I own a small game development studio called Rocketcat Games. There's three of us. It's me, Jeremy Orlando, and Brandon Rhodes. We also collaborate with people sometimes. Our games are Hook Champ, Super Quick Hook, Hook Worlds, Mage Gauntlet, and some upcoming ones, but our games aren't really too important right now to mention. The thing I want to impart onto the entire audience right now is that we're really bad at this whole App Store thing. We're completely terrible. Games specifically, we're terrible at selling games. Here's why we're bad at this. Our games are not very accessible at all. They're complicated, difficult. It often takes several minutes to even grok the controls. We're fixed at the $3 price point for the most part. We never do a sale, never go down from that price. And all our games are niche games. They're made with a very specific audience in mind. And these are all terrible things to do if you're an iOS game developer. But despite this, Hook Champ, our first major game, made enough money where we could all start working part-time at our jobs. Our second major game, Super Quick Hook, made enough money where we could all quit. We're in a position right now where we don't need to worry about our next couple games succeeding or failing. We can make whatever we want. So I think that our story is interesting because it's possible to duplicate. We're not very lucky people on the App Store, but we make money all the same. We don't chart very long. So anyone in here could follow in our footsteps as long as they knew what we did. So what I'm going to base my speech around up here is I'm going to talk about our entire iOS adventure making these niche games and how you can duplicate it. Strategies that work for us and strategies that you guys should really avoid. So our origin story. I was working as a registered nurse on night shifts, and it was a boring place to work at night, so I had all this free time and a laptop. So I went on a chat channel that's been existing for 10 years or so now about the old game Asheron's Call. So there's still about 10 people that hang out in this chat channel, even though the game has, well, you can look at it and see how dated the game is. I think I'm actually the guy in green right there next to the pantsless man. So one night I was on this chat channel, right? And I just arbitrarily decided to talk about how I didn't really like a lot of the stuff being put up by the game industry and how that we should start making our own games. And there were two people in there, Jeremy Orlando, our programmer, and Brandon Rhodes, our artist, that just kind of said, sure, whatever. The barrier for entry for the App Store is and was just meaningless. It's like $99 for a developer account, and then they just let you make whatever you want, more or less anyway. So Brandon Rhodes, no game industry experience, just like me. I was a registered nurse. He was delivering pizzas. He never a professional artist. All he did was make little entertaining comics for the channel. So he had an audience of about 10 people. Jeremy Orlando, he kind of had game industry experience, but he made flash games in Mahjong. For Mahjong flash games is his job. He was kind of chained to a radiator, and he just had to make these games over and over. So that's our game industry experience right there. I bring this up to show that you don't need game industry experience at all to break into the App Store. But I'd also like to say that when you're forming a team, if you're forming a team, absolutely do it with people that you trust. That's more important than experience for me. I can name several teams, both on the App Store making games and App Store not making games and the general independent game development scene, where one bad person just completely ruins their chance for success. When you're forming a team, just keep in mind that these are the people you're going to be stuck with. So we made a couple of games before Hook Champ, and we no longer talk about the couple of games we made before Hook Champ, so just ignore this slide. What I will say about our first couple of games is that I think our most successful game before Hook Champ made about $500. And this was earlier on when it was a little easier to be successful on the App Store. So what I'm suggesting to anyone getting in on it now is to maybe make your first game free. For one thing, you'll get more exposure. There's actually a very large barrier for entry between free and 99 cents. There's a very low payoff for your first game anyway due to you not having an established audience yet. But this is just a suggestion. It's not too dire. So Hook Champ. For Hook Champ, we actually got covered by Touch Arcade and Slide to Play when we sent out our review codes. It turns out that review sites actually do like niche games. One thing that's really helpful that you should absolutely do when you're first trying to contact these sites, one thing is spread out your bets a little bit, contact every site that's applicable to your game. And another important thing I find is get a forum account on Touch Arcade. The reviewers and editors of Touch Arcade actually read their forums a lot. It's very active, there's a lot of people you can talk to directly, and they'll like you just if you talk to the audience on their forums. Like you just post a preview of your game. That's a really good way to get your foot in the door. Unless your game's terrible, in which case it probably won't work. So the $3 price point, all our games except for one was the $3 price point, and we like this for a lot of reasons. If you're making a game that doesn't have a very wide audience, or doesn't have a potential wide audience, it's complicated, absolutely do not make your game 99 cents. Think of it as there's a certain cap of how many games you can sell if it's this niche sort of game. So the lower price isn't going to help you at all. The whole 99 cent thing, really the point of it is to try to launch yourself up the charts. This only works if you're a very kind of lowest common denominator. That sounds bad, but that's a more general audience sort of game. Like if everyone absolutely would love your game, all ages, all audiences, make your game 99 cents. But otherwise, make it $3. We've also tried the $2 price point, but it doesn't really make a difference between that and $3. Cross promotion. One thing that helped us extremely, a huge amount, was the guy that made Minigore liked our games. He found about it on the Touch Arcade forums. First he made fan art for it, and then he offered to cross-promote it. And it was extremely noticeable, the cross-promotion. I think he had like 1 million people playing Minigore at the time. So even though we were a $3 paid game, a lot of his audience still crossed over to ours. Just kind of banner ad share. I recommend approaching developers to do this because it turns out game developers actually love games. If they like your game, they're going to want you to see you succeed. So cross-promotion is a likely thing. The previous 4 speakers said to do updates. They're complete liars. Don't listen to them at all. Don't do updates at all. I should probably expound on that a little bit, though. We found that updates generate goodwill, but they don't actually generate more sales unless you get to a certain number. And that certain number is, we're guessing about 100,000. That's when it starts to ramp up. But the more, the better. Especially if your game isn't successful, don't spend more than maybe 1 update's worth of time on it. Just move on. We did many updates for Hook Champ, lots of major new features, and it did help us for our next game, but we probably could have made 1 or maybe even 2 games in the time that we spent. So our next game, Super Quick Cook. This is the game that made us all, quit our jobs and work full time on this. The most important takeaway is in an update to Hook Champ, we put in a catalog specifically to promote the next game. And this was extremely, extremely helpful. What this did was it notified all our fans of the next game the first day it was released. And how the charts work is, I think they still work like this too. The more promotion you get in the first few days that it's up on the charts, the higher you go up on the charts. It's something to do with, it's a 3-day spread, and if you just came out, days 1 and 2 are either 0 or infinity, I'm not sure which. So by just heavily promoting your game on the first day of release, you can get up into the top 20 if you have a dedicated fan base. Super Quick Cook, despite being a $3 niche game, it got up to number 4 on the top paid charts. That's not games, that's top overall. It led to a lot of extra sales, but it didn't stay up there too long. But it's still nice. You're growing your audience each time you do this. And then you use that audience in your next game to promote your next game even higher, and it's just a cycle that'll keep going up and up. And it adds a lot of stability and security to the whole thing. So Hook Worlds, our first and only 99-cent game. And don't release a game right before Christmas. A new game because EA, Gameloft, the really big companies, use this time to make all their games, they're like $5, $6 games, 99 cents, and they completely dominate the charts during this. It's kind of like we didn't release the game at all or something until the whole thing ended, so avoid that. Despite selling a little bit more copies than Super Quick Cook, it made far, far less money just because it sold for a third the price. So, Mage Gauntlet. We made a huge, huge mistake on the release of Mage Gauntlet. The cellular download cap at the time was 20 megabytes, and Mage Gauntlet was 20.1 megabytes after we submitted it at 18.4. And don't do that either. Make sure it's way lower than 30 now. It's extremely harmful. Our release for Mage Gauntlet was much worse than Super Quick Cook was. I think we maybe broached 18 or so top paid. But yeah, and as soon as we fixed that, our numbers shot way up too. The review coverage of your games gets easier and easier each time you did it. For our first game, we got Touch Arcade coverage, slide play coverage, and various other iOS sites. For our game after that, we got coverage on pretty much any iOS site that we wanted. And for Mage Gauntlet, we got Kotaku coverage and sites similar to it. And it's very noticeable when Kotaku covers your game, though it only lasts about a day. So the future. The App Store changes over time, so we're going to have to change with it. The trouble with the paid charts is, if you make your game $3, there's going to be people that will buy it if it has really nice reviews. But there will be a lot more people that will either wait for your game to become 99 cents, or ideally wait for your game to become free, or ask their friends if they should buy this game. Maybe. I've heard it's got really good reviews, but $3. And the thing about this is, you're not fighting people's stinginess. It's not about that at all. And you're not fighting your competitors that are cheaper than you. You're fighting people's enormous backlog of games. A lot of people that enjoy playing games on their iOS device will have a backlog of 20 to 30 games they got for 99 cents or free. So if you're offering a game for $3, they probably will get it after they get through a little bit of their backlog, but then they'll forget about you completely. So that's one of the reasons that we're considering going free. The other reason is that as time goes on, the top 25 paid charts kind of cement. Like, there's games up there, the Angry Birds series, Doodle Jump, hops in between still in the top 25 where they'll never leave it. It'll be 3 years in the future and you'll still see like 5 or 7 or 10 versions of Angry Birds up there, just permanently parked in there, which means that you only have 15 slots in the top 25, which are the important slots. Those are the slots that the casual gaming audience really sees. The free charts are pretty bad too. A lot of the top 10 are like the Facebook-style games where I can't even name the Farmville-style games. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not even going to bother to name one, but it doesn't matter. There's a lot more virality on the free charts. You can be in the top 200 and still make a lot of money on the free charts. People will instantly, show your game to a friend, and that friend will just download it without thinking about it. It's a great barrier to cross. Another thing is, I mentioned cross promotion in Hook Champ once, and that's the only time we did it for some reason. I can't even tell you why that's the only time that we did it, but it's extremely helpful. It's probably the best thing that you can do on the App Store is to get cross promotion from other developers. The other best thing you can do on the App Store is to promote new games from your old games. Those are the two strategies that work consistently, always, almost always. You can make a really terrible game and completely ruin your career, I guess. So, summary checklist. Niche games, slow and steady strategy, not super glamorous or anything, but you can definitely make a living off of it. Read iOS gaming sites. Pay attention to what they like. Pay attention to what the tone of the site is. Pay attention to what their audience likes. When you're sending out letters to review sites, don't do form letters. They'll pick up on that. Do a personalized letter to them. Sign up on the Touch Arcade forums, post your game preview there. Maybe make your first game free. Cultivate an audience, make sure they see your new games. Make multiple games and have your old games linked to the new so it's a repeating cycle that gets a little bigger each time. Cross-promotion with other developers who like your games, and set all your promotions to hit in the first few days of release. And that's about it. I guess if we have no idea how the App Store works and we can still make money, you guys can still make money while also having no idea of what you're doing. Thank you.